Robert Thompson's hand shook as he held the crisp $38 million check made out to his only son, Ethan. The family lawyer's office fell silent as he struck a match and set the paper ablaze, the flames licking up the fortune his father had left specifically for Ethan. "This money will not fund a life of perversion," Robert spat, his eyes locked on Ethan's shocked face. "Not while I am alive." The flames crackled, casting flickering shadows on the oak-paneled walls of the Chicago law office. Susan, Ethan's mother, gasped and covered her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. The lawyer, Mr. Caldwell, jumped to his feet. "Mr. Thompson, you cannot do that. That check was legally bequeathed to your son." But Robert did not care. He dropped the burning paper into a metal trash can, watching it turn to ash. He turned to Ethan, his face red with rage. "You have disgraced this family long enough with your choices. Coming out was one thing, but expecting your grandfather's hard-earned money to support your lifestyle. No, I will not allow it." Ethan stood there, his heart pounding, the room spinning. At 28, he had built a life in San Francisco as a freelance writer, far from the conservative world of his Chicago family. He had come out to them 5 years ago, and while it was tense, they had maintained a fragile peace. Until now. The grandfather, Harold, had always been the one who seemed to understand, sending encouraging emails and never judging. "You had no right," Ethan said, his voice low but steady. "That was my inheritance. Grandpa left it to me." "Your grandfather was old and confused," Robert snapped. "He did not know what you really are. But I do. And as your father, it is my duty to protect you from yourself." The argument escalated, voices rising. Susan tried to mediate. "Robert, please, this is not the way." But Robert was adamant. "If you choose to continue this way, Ethan, you are no longer welcome in this family. No more support, no more contact." Ethan felt a sharp pain in his chest. He looked at his mother, who looked away, tears in her eyes. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the office, the door slamming behind him. Outside, the Chicago wind bit at his face as he hailed a cab to the airport. On the plane back to San Francisco, he replayed the scene over and over. The betrayal cut deep. His own father destroying millions just to punish him for who he was. What kind of love was that? He remembered the nights as a teenager when he felt different, the confusion, the fear of disappointing the family. Coming out had been the hardest thing he ever did. His father had gone silent for weeks. His mother had cried. Only Grandpa Harold had called him the next day and said, "Son, be who you are. The world is changing, but some people never will. Do not let them dim your light." Now that light felt extinguished. Ethan stared out the plane window at the clouds below, wondering if he would ever speak to his father again. The money was not even the point. It was the rejection, the message that his father would rather burn a fortune than accept his son. Back in his small apartment in the Mission District, Ethan collapsed on the couch. The city lights twinkled outside, a reminder of the life he had built despite the family pressure. He had friends, a community that accepted him, a few casual dates, but nothing serious. The family rejection stung worse than he expected. He poured a glass of wine and sat in silence until his phone rang. It was Mr. Caldwell. "Ethan, I need to see you. There is more to your grandfather's will. Your father did not destroy everything." "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, his voice hoarse. "Come to my office in San Francisco. I have a branch here. It is important." The next day, Ethan sat in a modern office overlooking the bay. Mr. Caldwell handed him a sealed envelope. "Your grandfather left this for you in case your father reacted badly. He knew his son well." Ethan opened the envelope, pulling out a handwritten letter and a small key. "Dear Ethan, if you are reading this, it means Robert has done something foolish with the check. I left that money as a test, knowing his views. The real inheritance is not in dollars but in the life I want for you. I have transferred the majority of my estate to a trust in your name. The company shares the properties, they are yours. But more importantly, I want you to live without the regrets I had. I was like you, son. I loved a man once, but I hid it, married your grandmother, built the business.
Itate me incide.
Do not make my mistake. Be true to yourself. There is a house in the hills above San Francisco that I bought years ago. The key is enclosed. Go there. The caretaker Marcus Reed will explain the rest. He was a dear friend to me in my last years. Trust him as I did. With love, Grandpa Harold. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. His grandfather had been gay too. The revelation hit him like a wave. All those years, the quiet understanding, the subtle support. Harold had carried the same secret. There is more, the lawyer said. The trust is substantial, over $150 million in assets. Your father cannot touch it now that he violated the conditions by destroying the bequest. Ethan left the office, the key in his pocket, heading to the address in the letter. The drive up the winding roads gave him time to process. His grandfather had lived a double life, sacrificing his truth for family and business. Now he was giving Ethan the chance to do the opposite. The house was a beautiful modern villa with floor-to-ceiling windows and views of the bay. As he approached the door, a man stepped out. Tall, with kind eyes, dark hair, and a warm smile. You must be Ethan. I am Marcus Reed. Your grandfather told me a lot about you. Welcome home. Marcus extended his hand and Ethan shook it, feeling an unexpected warmth in the grip. The man looked to be in his early 30s, fit and confident, with an easy presence that immediately put Ethan at ease despite the whirlwind of the past few days. Come inside, Marcus said. I have coffee ready. We have a lot to talk about. The interior of the house was stunning, open concept with hardwood floors, modern art on the walls, and a kitchen that opened onto a large deck. Marcus poured 2 mugs and they sat at the island. Your grandfather bought this place about 10 years ago, Marcus explained. He used it as a retreat when the family pressure got too much. He spent a lot of time here in his final years. Ethan sipped the coffee, trying to steady his nerves. The letter said you were close to him. Marcus nodded, his expression softening. He was like a father to me. I met him when I was 22, fresh out of college, struggling with my own identity. I was working at one of his companies and he took me under his wing. He saw something in me. When I came out to my own family, they cut me off. Harold stepped in, paid for my graduate degree, helped me start my tech consulting firm. He never judged. He just wanted me to live openly in a way he never could. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. So he told you about me. He did, Marcus said, smiling faintly. He was proud of you for coming out. He worried about how your father would react, but he believed you were strong enough to handle it. That is why he set up the trust the way he did. The $38 million was a decoy in a way. The real assets transfer automatically if the initial bequest is interfered with. Your father burning that check actually triggered the full inheritance to you. Ethan leaned back, stunned. So all this, the house, the company shares, it is mine now. It is, Marcus confirmed. But there is a personal side too. Harold left journals, letters, recordings. He wanted you to know his story. He hoped it would help you avoid the same pain. They spent the afternoon walking the property. The garden was lush with flowers and a small pool overlooking the water. Marcus shared stories about Harold, late-night conversations about love and regret, the fear of losing everything if the truth came out. Ethan opened up too about the burning, the argument, the years of feeling like he was never enough for his father. By evening they ordered takeout and ate on the deck as the sun set. The conversation flowed easily. Marcus was thoughtful and funny, with a dry sense of humor that made Ethan laugh for the first time in days. There was an undeniable spark, a pull that went beyond the circumstances. But Ethan held back. His heart was still raw from the family betrayal. Romance was the last thing he needed. That night, alone in one of the guest rooms, Ethan read more of the letter and flipped through the journals Marcus had given him. Harold wrote about meeting a man in the 1970s, the stolen moments, the guilt, the decision to marry and have children anyway. The pain jumped off the pages. Ethan cried, quietly wondering how different his grandfather's life could have been. The next morning his phone rang. It was his mother. Ethan, please come home. Your father is devastated. He did what he thought was right, but he loves you. Ethan gripped the phone. He burned millions to prove a point, Mom. How is that love? He is scared, Susan said, her voice breaking. Scared of what people will say, scared for your future. Give him time. Ethan hung up, feeling torn. Part of him wanted to forgive, to keep the family together. Another part, the part that had lived in the shadows for so long, refused. He stepped onto the deck and found Marcus already there with breakfast. They talked more. Marcus shared his own story of betrayal by a past partner who left when the family pressure became too much. The vulnerability created a bridge between them. As the days passed, Ethan settled into the house. He explored the company documents with Marcus' guidance, realizing the scale of what he had inherited. But the real gift was the freedom, the space to breathe. And the growing connection with Marcus, a man who understood the weight of secrets and the courage it took to live truthfully. The connection between Ethan and Marcus deepened with each passing day. They spent mornings reviewing the trust documents, turning the inheritance into something practical. Marcus had a sharp business mind and helped Ethan understand the family company shares, the investment portfolios, the real estate holdings. But the afternoons were for the personal. They hiked the trails behind the house, talking about everything from childhood memories to dreams for the future. One afternoon, as they sat on a rocky outcrop overlooking the Pacific, Marcus turned to Ethan. "Your grandfather used to sit here and tell me that the biggest mistake of his life was choosing safety over truth. He said if he could go back, he would have found a way to be honest with his family, even if it meant losing some of them." Ethan nodded, staring at the waves below. "I get that now. Burning that check, my father was choosing his version of safety. His reputation, his beliefs. But he lost me in the process." Marcus placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, the touch lingering. "You are not alone in this. Not anymore." The moment stretched, charged with unspoken feelings. Ethan felt his pulse quicken. Marcus was kind, intelligent, and strikingly handsome in a quiet way. But Ethan hesitated. His last relationship had ended because the guy could not handle the family drama. He did not want to drag Marcus into the mess. That evening they cooked dinner together in the villa kitchen, laughing over spilled wine and burnt garlic. The conversation turned lighter. Marcus told stories about his tech startup days, the crazy pitches, the all-nighters. Ethan shared anecdotes from his writing life, the quirky clients, the deadlines that made him question his sanity. The laughter felt healing. Later, as they sat on the couch watching the city lights, Marcus asked the question Ethan had been avoiding. "What do you want to do with all this? The money, the house, the company?" Ethan thought for a moment. "I want to use it to help people like us. Maybe start a foundation for LGBT youth who get rejected by their families. Scholarships, counseling, places to stay. Grandpa would have liked that." Marcus smiled, his eyes warm. "He would have been proud. And I would love to help you make it happen." Their eyes met, and this time neither looked away. The air thickened. Marcus leaned in slowly, giving Ethan time to pull back. Their lips met in a soft, tentative kiss, full of the emotion they had both been holding back. It was not rushed or desperate, but gentle and real. When they pulled apart, Ethan felt a weight lift. But reality intruded the next morning. His sister called. "Dad is talking about contesting the will. He says Grandpa was not in his right mind. Mom is torn, but she is backing him. You need to come back and talk to them." Ethan felt the old anger rise. "They do not get to take this from me too." Marcus listened as Ethan vented, then offered calm advice. "You do not have to face them alone. But you also do not have to burn every bridge. Your grandfather hid his whole life because he feared losing his family. You have a chance to do it differently." The words stayed with Ethan. Over the next week, he and Marcus grew closer, sharing more kisses, longer conversations, late nights. The romance bloomed, naturally built on mutual respect and shared understanding of the pain family prejudice could cause. Marcus opened up about his own struggles with societal expectations, the pressure to conform in the business world. Yet the family pressure mounted. Robert sent legal letters demanding access to the trust documents. Susan called, crying, begging Ethan to reconcile. The internal conflict tore at Ethan. Was he being selfish by keeping the inheritance and pursuing this new relationship? Or was he finally claiming the life his grandfather wanted for him? One night, after a particularly heated call with his father, Ethan broke down. Marcus held him, letting him cry. "You are allowed to choose yourself, Ethan. Love is not a betrayal of family. It is the truest thing we have." In that moment, Ethan knew he was falling for Marcus, the man who understood the cost of truth and still chose to stand beside him. The romance between Ethan and Marcus became the anchor Ethan needed as the family storm intensified. They spent weekends exploring San Francisco together, hand in hand at the Castro District, walking through Golden Gate Park, sharing quiet dinners. Each date strengthened their bond. Marcus was patient, never pushing but always present. He made Ethan feel seen in a way no one else had. One evening they attended a small LGBT fundraiser. Marcus introduced Ethan to friends in the community. For the first time, Ethan felt proud, not just of who he was but of the future he was building. The inheritance was no longer a burden but a tool. They talked late into the night about the foundation idea, turning it into concrete plans. But the peace shattered when Robert arrived in San Francisco unannounced. He showed up at the villa one afternoon, his face set in determination. "We need to talk, son. Alone." Ethan stood his ground with Marcus at his side. "Anything you have to say, you can say in front of him." Robert glared at Marcus, then at Ethan. "This is what you choose. A stranger over your own blood. Your grandfather would be ashamed." "No, Grandpa would be proud," Ethan shot back. "He lived hiding who he was. He left me this so I would not have to." The confrontation escalated. Robert accused Ethan of manipulating the will, of turning his back on family values. He revealed that the company board was uneasy about the transfer, some members siding with him. Susan had come too, and she stood silently, tears streaming as the men argued. "You are throwing away everything we built," Robert said, his voice cracking for the first time. "For what? This lifestyle." "This is not a lifestyle," Ethan replied. "It is who I am. The same as Grandpa. The same as Marcus. The money does not change that. But your hate does." Marcus spoke calmly but firmly. "Mr. Thompson Harold trusted me because I cared for him without judgment. He wanted Ethan to have the same support. This is not about money. It is about letting your son live without shame." Robert left, threatening legal action, but the visit left Ethan shaken. That night he and Marcus sat on the deck processing it. "I do not want to destroy my family," Ethan said. "But I cannot go back to pretending." "You do not have to," Marcus replied, taking his hand. "But maybe there is a middle way. Not forgiveness on their terms, but boundaries on yours." Their relationship faced its first real test. Marcus had his own history of family rejection, and for a moment he pulled back, worried about becoming the wedge that split Ethan from his roots. Ethan reassured him. "You are not the problem. The prejudice is." They spent the night talking through their fears, reaffirming their commitment. The kiss that followed was deeper, more passionate, a promise amid the chaos. The next days brought more calls, more legal threats. A sibling Ethan had not spoken to in years sided with the father, sending angry messages. Yet through it all, Marcus was there, steady and loving. They made love for the first time one quiet evening, the connection emotional as much as physical. No rush, just two men finding solace and joy in each other. Afterward, lying together, Marcus whispered, "I think your grandfather knew this might happen. He wanted you to find someone who understands." Ethan smiled through happy tears. "I think he did." The climax built as Robert scheduled a mediation session. Ethan agreed to attend with Marcus by his side. The meeting was tense, accusations flying. But Ethan stood firm, laying out the truth about the grandfather's wishes and his own right to live authentically. The mediation session turned into a battlefield of emotions. Robert accused the lawyer of collusion and questioned Harold's mental state. Susan pleaded for peace, saying the family was falling apart. Ethan listened to it all, then spoke from the heart. "I loved Grandpa. He gave me this inheritance not to divide us but to free me. Burning that check, Dad, was your choice. Now I am making mine. I will not hide anymore. And I will not give up the man I love." Marcus sat quietly, supportive, his presence a quiet strength. The mediator suggested compromise, but Robert refused to budge. The session ended without resolution, but Ethan felt empowered. He had spoken his truth without apology. Back at the villa, the stress took its toll. Ethan questioned everything. Was he being too harsh? Should he give up some assets to keep the family intact? Marcus listened without judgment, then shared his own awakening. After my family rejected me, I spent years angry. Then I realized the anger was keeping me trapped. Your grandfather taught me to channel it into something good. That is what you are doing with the foundation. Inspired, they spent days drafting plans for the nonprofit. It would provide housing, counseling, and career support for young LGBT people rejected by families. Naming it after Harold felt right. The work brought them closer, turning their love into a shared mission. But another crisis hit. Robert suffered a mild heart scare from the stress. Susan called frantic. Ethan flew to Chicago alone despite Marcus offering to come. At the hospital, the family gathered. Robert looked frail in the bed. For the first time, he did not shout. He just looked at Ethan with tired eyes. I thought I was protecting you. You were protecting your own fears, Ethan said gently. I am still your son. But I am also a man who loves another man. That does not make me less. Susan held Ethan's hand, crying. We were wrong to push you away. The visit was not a full reconciliation but a crack in the wall. Robert did not apologize outright, but he stopped the legal threats. Ethan returned to San Francisco changed. The trip showed him the cost of prolonged conflict on everyone. Marcus welcomed him home with open arms. Their reunion was tender, full of relief and renewed passion. They spent the weekend at the villa talking about the future. Marcus admitted his own doubts. I was scared I would be the reason you lost your family. You are the reason I found my courage, Ethan replied. Their love had been tested and it held. The internal conflicts, the moral questions about loyalty versus authenticity, the trade-offs of family versus self, all resolved into a clear choice. Ethan chose both where possible, but himself first. The foundation launch brought everything full circle. Ethan and Marcus hosted a small event at the villa, inviting friends, community leaders, and even a few reconciled family members. Susan attended alone, bringing a quiet support that meant the world. Robert stayed in Chicago but sent a short note wishing them well. It was not forgiveness, but it was a start. As the evening wound down, Ethan and Marcus stood on the deck looking at the bay. The inheritance had brought far more than wealth. It brought truth, healing, and a love neither had expected. Marcus pulled Ethan close. Your grandfather would be smiling right now. Ethan nodded, resting his head on Marcus' shoulder. He gave me the courage to live the life he could not. And he gave me you. They kissed under the stars, the moment peaceful and full of promise. The drama had taken its toll, but the awakening was worth every tear, every confrontation. Ethan had paid the price of family strain but gained a partner, a purpose, and the freedom to be himself. In the months that followed, the foundation grew, helping dozens of young people. Ethan continued writing, incorporating his experiences into stories that resonated. Marcus expanded his business, and together they built a life of quiet strength and open love. Looking back, Ethan often thought about that burning check. The flames had destroyed paper but ignited something unbreakable. The real inheritance was never the money. It was the permission to love without shame, the strength to face prejudice, and the joy of finding someone who walked the path beside him. In destroying the check, did Robert Thompson ultimately protect his family values, or did he unknowingly give his son the greatest gift of all, the freedom to choose love and truth over fear and silence? Was his action an act of misguided love or a profound betrayal that proved some prices are too high to pay? What would you have done in his place?